Hey everyone, today I'll be showing you the Rode Wireless Pro. I'll be doing a quick unboxing as well as diving into all the settings and what you need to know to get it set up for your first project. I bought this system to use when filming weddings. Not only does it allow me to have wireless mics for better audio when live streaming wedding ceremonies, but it saves time when editing projects by not having to sync the off-camera recorders with video like I do when I use standalone recorders. This video is not sponsored, but I do have a link where you can buy it in the description below. I've used it on a few weddings so far, and it's definitely my new go-to audio system. I'm hoping to do a more in-depth review with comparisons in the future, so once that's done, I'll link to it here. If you're not a subscriber, don't forget to click subscribe and also click the notification bell so you'll be alerted when that video is released. Now for the unboxing, we have two cases, one with a wireless system inside and one with the accessories. The one with Wireless Pro on it is the wireless system case. The case itself has a 4200 milliamp hour battery that can provide an additional 2 recharges for the wireless units. Inside the case, we find the wireless receiver and 2 transmitters. They have a runtime of 7 hours, which should get you through most days of shooting. But when recharged by placing back in the case, they give you an additional 2 charges for a total of 21 hours of runtime. Out of the box, the wireless units were at half charge, so make sure you have plenty of time to charge it before your first shoot. Inside the case, there's a USB-C port for each slot, which allows the charging case to act as a USB hub for one single cable to connect all the devices to a computer or mobile device. At the back of the box, there is a 20-inch USB-C to C cable. This is thicker than the 12-inch cable included in the accessory box, and it allows for the faster USB 3 data transfer speeds. Then we have the accessory box, and underneath that, a sheet with all the compliance and safety information. Inside the accessory box, we'll start out with the magnetic clips. Rather than making the transmitter clip out of metal, Rode chose to make it plastic and include a metal bracket to slide over the clip. Then there's also a flat magnet that can easily be slipped under a shirt or piece of clothing to attach the transmitter when there's not a place to clip it. Or another use I've found is to use the magnet to attach the transmitter onto a metal mic stand. The next accessories are the 12-inch long USB-C to Lightning cable and USB-C to C cable. These cables can be used to connect the wireless system to your mobile device for changing settings or updating firmware from the RØDE Central mobile app. Next we have the 3.5mm TRS to TRS cable. This is what you'll be using to connect the receiver to your camera's mic jack. There's also a decent sized lens cleaning cloth. Not sure why you need a lens cleaning cloth in an audio system, but it is a nice cloth. Going further, there's a desiccant pack that says to retain for storage with a microphone. Underneath that are the 2 Rode Lavalier IIs. These come with a strangulation hazard warning label saying that they are reinforced with Kevlar. I'm not going to test their durability here, but it is nice to know that they're designed to last. There's also a sheet with more compliance and safety information for the Lavalier IIs. The Wireless Pro does have the convenience of being able to use the built-in mic on top of the transmitter, but having the Lavalier IIs allows you to hide the wireless transmitter and only have this small lavalier visible. Next is the accessory bag for the lavalier mics. It has a clip for each mic along with foam screens and 4 colored clips for the plug end for customizing the mic. If you need an easy way to keep track of specific mics, just swap out the black band that comes on it for one of the colors. One thing to note about this locking mic jack is that it has a removable collar and not a swivel collar. That means that you have to be careful not to lose this collar if it does come loose. Also, it connects slightly different than what I'm used to with a typical non-removable swivel collar. The swivel collar, when you plug it in, it pushes back and then screw the collar onto the jack just like normal. The removable collar on the Lavalier II means that you plug it in and then twist the plug into the jack until it is secure. Now this locking collar does mean it's not going to come out, but I do think that over time, if you're unplugging and plugging it in quite a bit, then that screwing in and out may cause extra wear on the contacts inside the jack. Also, if you go to use this microphone on anything that doesn't have threads for a locking jack, you are going to have to remove the collar and store it in a safe place. Then it plugs in just like any other jack. When attaching these Lavalier IIs to the clip, there is a technique for creating a broadcast loop. So you're going to have the mic on the clip with the capsule facing out. You're going to clip the cable inside the clip, then run it back down into this rubber groove. That way the cable is now pointing down, and it also keeps the wire tucked neatly out of the way whenever you clip it onto somebody's shirt. Then the foam windscreen can just be slid on top. That will keep everything looking nice and neat when you put it on. Another way I found to attach the mic when it's a really windy day is actually to reverse the capsule so that it's now facing the clip side, and take it out of the little retaining groove and then clip it on to the inside of their shirt. This allows for an ultra low profile, and it also shields the mic from the wind. Now you may have a little bit of audio muffling from having to go through the shirt that they're wearing, but on a really windy day, that technique really saved my audio, and it kept my groom and officiant from having to wear this massive dead cat. Next, we have a total of 5 dead cat fuzzies, 2 for the lavalier mics and 3 for the transmitters. The fuzzies for the lavs just sit in place of where the foam windscreen goes, while the transmitter fuzzies have a push in and twist locking system. When you first plug in the charging case, you'll see the LED on the back begin flashing, indicating it's charging. Once it's finished charging, the light will be solid green. There's also a button next to LED to check the case battery status when it's not plugged in. Unfortunately, there's not a way to check the precise battery status, but according to RØDE, green is healthy battery level, amber is low, red is critically low, and flashing red needs immediate charging. A solid blue light when it's not connected indicates it's charging the units inside. Now I'm going to go over all of the settings and how I have my Wireless Pro units configured with the RØDE Central desktop app. So plugging in the first time, you're probably going to see some prompt to update the firmware. I'm just going to go ahead and update all. Now that they're all updated, I'm going to first go into the receiver. The first setting is routing. We have merged, split, or safety. I use split to have each transmitter recorded into separate channels on my camera. This can also be referred to as dual mono, as it does require some editing in post, because you'll have one transmitter recorded in the left channel and one in the right. However, it does give you the most flexibility in post because you can adjust the volume of each channel, each transmitter independently after switching to dual mono in your editing program. Next is your gain mode. This is the volume of the signal that the transmitter is sending through the analog jack. Since I'm connecting it to a camera, I'm going to use the preset mode, then select my camera from their list of preset options. So since they don't have my exact model, I'm just going to pick the next closest option from the same manufacturer, and the preset volume is going to be the same for all of those from the same manufacturer. There are some instructions here after selecting the camera that will give me specific directions for setting up the sound settings on my camera. Don't skip this step. Just leaving your camera sound settings on auto could cause a lot of extra noise, especially since DSLR and mirrorless cameras are notorious for poor quality preamps. I found that the settings that RØDE suggest for your camera settings are typically on the low side just to be safe so you don't have peaking, but just do your own sound check before doing an important shoot. On the next set of options, you have the option to automatically dim the backlight during use. I'm not sure how much of an effect it has on battery life, but I'm sure it can't hurt. Next, we get to customize what the /O button on the receiver does for the onboard recordings on the transmitters. So we have the option of none, marker, or record. Marker will place a marker flag when viewing the recording in RØDE Central, and the record will start and stop the recordings on the transmitters, on both transmitters simultaneously. If the transmitters are set to always record, which I would recommend, either of these options will work fine to help you locate which part of the audio recording you need to export. It's just a personal preference on whether you'd rather have one large file with markers at the beginning and end, or several shorter files where it starts recording when you pull it out of the case, and then when you hit the reset button, it starts a new recording. I prefer having it set to marker so that I don't miss anything in the few seconds it takes to stop and restart a new recording. The last setting on the top row is plug-in detect. Turning this setting on allows the camera to turn the receiver on and off when it's connected. It's a little more complicated than that. The camera and the receiver both have to be off before turning on the camera will control the receiver. But if you plan on leaving it connected all day, it's a good option to save some battery life. Going down to timecode, in most use cases, leave this setting off. Unfortunately, most DSLR and mirrorless cameras, as well as this Wireless Pro, don't offer jam syncing of timecode. So the only way to use timecode is by taking up one of the audio channels, which reduces one of the benefits of using a wireless audio system like this. If you're not sure what timecode is, it's just a way to precisely sync video with audio to the frame. Wireless systems allow you to record off-camera transmitters directly with the video, so there's not a need to sync unless you end up needing to use one of the backup recordings from the transmitter. Now it's time to switch over to the transmitter settings. This has to be done for each transmitter by clicking on one of the transmitters on the left. As you can see, I've already customized the name of mine in the RØDE Central app just by double-clicking and changing the name. And I've also put some labels on the transmitters themselves. This just helps me keep track of which file is going to be on which device. Also, I have one setting that's different on my efficient or main mic versus the groom mic. So clicking on the gear cog will bring up the settings menu. First we have gain assist, which can be set to auto, dynamic, or off. This controls the microphone's gain sent from the wireless transmitter to the receiver, but doesn't affect the internal backup recording that's always going to be set to 32-bit float. Auto gain will give you a smoother, more consistent sound, which is what I'm looking for when I'm recording in the efficient at a wedding and other unpredictable environments. Dynamic gain still balances the wireless transmitter levels, but it's designed for more controlled environments. It also allows for more dynamic and natural sounding audio. Then turning this setting off allows for manual adjustment. You can go from 0 decibel gain all the way up to 30 decibels. I already mentioned that I want auto gain for the efficient mic, but since I can assume that the bride and groom will be talking significantly quieter, I have my groom mic preset to manual plus 30 decibel gain. The next option changes what the /O button function is on the transmitter. You have the option of none, marker, or mute. Since I mostly use the transmitters at weddings, I don't want the person that I put it on to accidentally push this button and mess up the recording, so I leave it on none. The LED can be set to dim or bright. I wish there were an auto dim option, since the dim is a little hard to see in direct sunlight, but if I have to choose one, I'd rather leave it on dim. The next setting is very important if you plan on having a backup recording on the transmitter. The top button on the transmitter is a record start-stop button, and it's not customizable and it can't be disabled. So if this setting is not set to always, whoever you put it on could be able to accidentally stop the recording if this button is pressed. When this setting is set to always, pushing this button on the transmitter will still stop the recording, but it will automatically start back on its own. So you will have a separate audio file, but at least you still have the onboard recording. Definitely turn on the high pass filter. This will reduce any rumble caused by wind noise or other low frequency sounds. The different options are 75 or 100 Hertz. Either option should be just fine unless your talent has an extremely deep voice. So just to be on the safe side, I always leave mine set to 75 Hertz. The timeout setting will automatically turn off the transmitters after 15 minutes. if they're not paired with the receiver and not recording. If you have your setup like mine, where it is on always record, then this setting doesn't affect anything. Below the settings, there's a bar that displays the internal recording time remaining on the transmitter. It has 32 gigabytes of internal memory for approximately 42 hours of recording at 32-bit float. You can't erase any of the individual recordings, but you can format the entire transmitter by clicking on the trash can and then confirming delete. If you don't ever format the transmitter and the internal storage fills up, it will start overwriting the oldest recordings first, but RØDE recommends deleting all the files after exporting between recording sessions, and I would say that's a good workflow, but would also add to back up all the recordings on an external drive first before formatting. The last option is to enable dropout markers. This is helpful if there was a problem with the wireless audio in the camera file and you need to go back to the backup internal recording. It'll help you easily pinpoint exactly where the dropout occurred. In this example, I mic'd the groom about 30 minutes before the start of the ceremony, and he went back to the getting ready area that ended up being out of wireless range. I didn't need any of that audio, but it was great to be able to see exactly how the dropout marker shows up here in RØDE Central. The last thing I want to go over is how to take your onboard recordings off of the transmitters on your computer. While the transmitters do show up as an external drive in your computer's file explorer, and you can pull off the files just like you would an external recorder, it's much better to use the RØDE Central app. So clicking on the transmitter brings up a list of all the recordings. You can select multiple recordings or preview individual recordings. You can see the waveform right here, see any markers that you placed, or see any dropout areas that may have occurred when the transmitter wasn't connected to the receiver. There's a few ways to sort the recordings, including renaming and color coding, but since I'm not storing any recordings here, the only thing I'm interested is how to export. When you selected one or multiple recordings, you can export the entire clip, or you can right-click and drag to select just a portion of the clip to export. Once you've selected what you want to export, choose the format. For this, I'm going to be choosing the lossless WAV file. Leave the sample rate at 48 kilohertz. On the bit depth, you have the option of 24-bit or 32-bit float. There's about 1/3 file size savings between the 24-bit and the 32-bit. And since we'll be normalizing the audio, there's not much of a reason to export the bigger dynamic range of the 32-bit float unless you have a mixture of loud and quiet audio that you'll need to be normalizing by hand in post. The final setting is probably the most important. This allows the RØDE Central program to normalize the audio so it's an appropriate volume without clipping. When you import the audio file into your editing software, set this to -12 LUFS. It'll look at the overall volume of the clip and automatically adjust the volume up or down so it'll be close to where it needs to be for your project. When you click export, choose a destination and then export. So there's the unboxing and setup of the RØDE Wireless Pro. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and also support the channel by clicking the subscribe button if you're not already.